Hello and welcome to the Joe Ligato Show. I'm your host, Dr. Joe Ligato, and today we're going to be going over what I've come to call the Judeo-Islamic War of 2023, because this war has been escalating to an extent that we haven't seen in at least decades. And because of the rise of alternative media, it is escalating at a rate that is, I would say, pretty unexpected. We are seeing that the people who supported Russia in their war in Ukraine are coming out heavily in favor of the Palestinian cause, far more than has occurred in prior conflicts between Israel and Palestine. Typically, the non-Western aligned powers have tried to balance between the Jewish state of Israel and the Islamic world in their conflicts with each other, while the Western world has been pretty solidly on the side of the Judeo state of Israel, though they do pretend, at least sometimes, to be independent. And so this conflict is far, far more than I was expecting, and there's a number of different things that we're going to go over related to that. Things like war crimes that are being openly admitted to, things like various countries that are supposedly free democratic societies that have free speech, threatening prison terms, various other things that people are saying that show that the United States is pretty beholden to special interest groups, particularly the Israeli lobby. We're seeing things like declines for funding in Ukraine, which is likely going to lead to the collapse of the Ukrainian military, given the fact that they already have high casualty rates. And we're seeing that the threat of World War III is increasing. And so let's dive right into all of these different topics that I have prepared for you. So here we see Jackson Hinkle talking about what the Israeli defense minister said. And since it's in Hebrew, we're not going to watch this specific video. However, you can see exactly what was said. The defense minister says that they are cutting off food, electricity, fuel, and water to Gaza. And they say, we are fighting human animals. And so here's the thing. People might argue with me that they're saying that because they're fighting against Hamas, not that they're fighting against the people of Gaza. But if they are cutting off the food, electricity, fuel, and water for all of the people of Gaza, and then in the same breath saying that they're fighting human animals, that tells us that they are talking about the people of Gaza directly. There are some other videos that we're not going to get into, but they show people chanting for Gaza to have 0 people. There was a hospital in Palestine that Israel wanted to bomb, and they gave people a certain amount of hours to leave the hospital. They told people to flee south from northern Gaza, and then they started to bomb the convoys that were fleeing south. Just heinous, heinous war crimes. And you see here that the reason that they think that this is acceptable is because they've dehumanized the Palestinian people. And this is very clear that when they say we're fighting human animals, they're not talking about Hamas. They're talking about all the Gaza people, because in the sentences before, they are talking about cutting off food, electricity, fuel, and water to all of Gaza. They're not talking about cutting that off to Hamas, in which case it would be clear that they're talking about fighting animals in regards to Hamas, but they're doing it for the entire Gazan people. And so this is a very clear statement of what they think of the people of Gaza, what they think of Arabic people in general, and the Muslim world. And so this is very likely, I would say, to escalate, which we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. But these are war crimes, by the way. So you are not allowed to cut off food, electricity, fuel, and water to this extent to a civilian population, particularly since that's why urban conflict, such as Gaza, is pretty much, I mean, it's just pretty much one city at this point. It's a tiny, tiny landmass that's has over 2 million people in it. And so it's very densely populated. I believe it's either second or third most densely populated country in the world. And so you can't just do this type of thing for that type of population, particularly since they have nowhere to go Egypt has not opened up their border for the Palestinians to flee there. And so these are very clear war crimes. And so let's see what the West has to say about this. All right, so this is Lindsey Graham, an elected official on Fox News, one of the media and entertainment arms of the duopoly, the uniparty. Now let's see what he has to say here.
We're in a religious war here. I am with Israel. Do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place. We're in a
Okay, so we see that he says to level the place. So there are I believe it's 2.2 million people, half of which are under the age of 18, so half of which are children, and you have an elected official of America on a major, formerly major news channel, because cable news, mainstream media is dying, but you have this elected official saying to level the place that has millions of people in it. They say they are in a religious war, that they are with Israel, and do whatever the hell you have to do to defend yourself. Level the place. You can't get much clearer than level the place there. And this just shows how scared the Western hegemony is, because you don't get to be this erratic, this genocidal, this openly erratic and genocidal, unless things are not going particularly well for you and you see that this is reaching endgame. And so my thoughts are that if this doesn't directly lead to World War III, then it's at the very least within a few years of what's going to be World War III. I think history books, if humanity's still around after this all is over with, they're going to show that the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Judeo-Islamic War of 2023, those are going to be the opening salvos of World War III, of the conflict between the multipolar world bloc and the U.S. hegemony bloc. And these types of comments, again, they go completely against international law and norms. Level the place in a religious war. And you also see, and I didn't have the picture up, but you see American officials, I believe it was at the Republican National Convention or something like that, or some meeting of a committee for them. But you saw Republican officials in the military attire of the Israeli Defense Force. Just absolutely ridiculous, very clearly dual loyalties, if you could even call it that, because if you're strutting around in military uniforms of foreign nations, I don't even know if you could call it dual loyalty. You've clearly expressed where your loyalty lies at that point. And it's not with America, obviously. But this is where America's at. So let's just see where the rest of the American puppets are. Like, are they pushing back against this genocidal narrative? Are they saying, hey, wait, we have a large Islamic population, maybe we shouldn't like genocide them? Like, is that what other countries are saying? So let's go to France. Let's see what France has to say. Okay, so we have France here. Syrian girl on Twitter says France has threatened 5-year prison terms to those protesting in defense of Palestine. Imagine masquerading as a democracy and banning protests against a genocide. And so I don't have the graphic up, but I believe that Germany is also making it illegal to say from, I think it's something like from land to sea, Palestine will be free. But that saying is banned in Germany. And I actually think that me just saying that is going to get this video taken down from Germany. And so that's the state that we're in right now. That's the situation that we're in right now, where the American puppets that are rapidly declining, that do have very large Islamic populations, they're very blatantly coming out against a cause that is near and dear to people of the Islamic faith. And it's probably not going to end well if you're openly supporting genocidal maniacs, such as, again, I just want to reemphasize here, this person is not just some random Israeli. This is the Israeli defense minister saying there's going to be no food, no electricity, no fuel, no water. And you see countries like America saying, yeah, sure, go for it. Be genocidal maniacs. Don't follow any international laws when it comes to war. And then you're seeing places like France and Germany saying, if you even talk about Palestine, you're going to be arrested. And so just wild things going on. So let's see, what is this conflict? Because poor Zelensky, he loves to get money from the West for his crack cocaine addiction. And he is wondering, what does this mean for him and his money supply from the West, this Judeo-Islamic War of 2023? So let's see what John Kirby has to say here.
Ukraine funding, we're coming near to the end of the rope. I mean, today we announced $200 million, and we'll keep that aid going as long as we can, but it's not going to be indefinite. So are we moving with a sense of alacrity? Absolutely. I couldn't give you a date certain on the calendar.
Can I follow up on that? Okay, so we see here that John Kirby, an official within the Biden administration, is saying that funding for Ukraine is coming to the end of the rope. And this post here by War Clandestine goes on to say, it appears that the U.S. are diverting their funding away from Ukraine, and the Biden regime have quietly accepted that Ukraine is a lost cause. Look like Israel was the off-ramp they needed. So this is just concerning. It used to be the case that with wars, it would take the United States at least like a decade or two to lose the war. I mean, they don't win wars, obviously. America is not a country that wins wars. Because their military is full of soy and estrogen. They don't win wars, but they would at least take some time to lose. But we're seeing that America funded, equipped, trained Ukraine, and it only took a little over a year for them to lose this war against a near peer competitor. We can't really call Russia a peer competitor, but they probably would be considered a near peer competitor. And so, yes, that's the current situation we're in. Between the lack of funding that is coming due to the conflict in Israel and Palestine, and the fact that Ukraine has essentially run out of people to conscript at this point, because if I remember correctly, the average age of military people in Ukraine is around the age of 40 or over 40, I believe. And so they've run out of young people to fight this war. And so between the lack of people and the lack of money, they are doomed at this point. It's a very, very unfortunate situation, to be completely honest, but that's the situation you are in if you fight for the West. And I've talked about this before, and so we're going to get to this now, which is that, and I'm going to have an entire video on a Ray Dalio article talking about this, but I did want to touch upon this in my just kind of overview. Here we have a 50% chance of world war as the Israel-Hamas conflict threatens to spread. Hedge fund billionaire Ray Dalio has said 50% chance of world war. So 2 years ago, if I remember correctly, he put the chance at about 35%, and now it is at 50%. And so within the next few years, it is looking increasingly likely that a world war is going to be occurring. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, I do think that these are the opening salvos: the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the Judeo-Islamic War of 2023. And I think that the United States is trying very hard to stir up a conflict within Taiwan, or just somewhere in the South China Sea in general, given the rapid military bases that they're building in places like the Philippines, which is concerning because I'm located in the Philippines. But that is the situation right now. I wanted to give you guys an overview. We're going to have more in-depth videos on specific topics related to this issue in the future. If you enjoyed this, please give us a thumbs up, and it helps us in the algorithm. Subscribe to our channel for more content, and leave a comment in the comment box with any questions, concerns, critiques you might have. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.